The Pentagon has just acknowledged a UFO crash retrieval program that apparently didn't exist a month ago. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, basically last month on the 6th of March, there was a report released to the general public from AARO which stated and outlined categorically and very specifically there was no evidence of crash retrieval programs or alien bodies or crashed UFOs on planet Earth at all. And that was it. That's what we were just told to believe. And it was basically, no, shut up about it. No, stop talking about it because look, we've proven to you that it doesn't exist. Let's fast forward the clocks a month later. It's now been acknowledged by the Pentagon and its name goes by Kona Blue Project. All right, Project Kona Blue. And it's basically a top secret program to investigate human consciousness anomalies. What? What? How can you 180 2,000 degree turn on that shit's head like so quickly? It makes no sense. But here we are today talking about it because it's been acknowledged that it exists. So you're probably wondering like me about 24 hours ago when this first came around, what is Kona Blue? Well, let me tell you, like I said, it's a top secret program to investigate human consciousness anomalies and it doesn't exist in the new report, or this new report said. So in the 63-page long document, as part of an investigation into the US government programs, it's been springboarded for an alleged paranormal-related activity. No, the United States government says, sorry, it does not have bodies hiding somewhere, nor does it ever try to reverse engineer flying saucers. Well, this report that's come out and just been acknowledged completely flips that on its head. And it's like, nah, we didn't mean that in that report back then. That was a month ago us talking. Now let's look at today's us talking. Go math. And basically, that's one of the main stances that AARO, an organisation created in 2022 to resolve sightings of UAPs, asserted in their report that they published. And if you take a little look at the report, I'll leave a link to this report if you want to take a look for yourself down in the description below. Basically, they were like, no, it doesn't exist. And now all of a sudden they're like, yes, it does exist. And this was absolutely exposed by News Nation. Of course, who else would you expect in today's day and age to expose something like this? It would be News Nation. You know, they got Ross Coulthart. Of course they're going to expose it. But like I said, they've got their fingers on the pulses with this stuff. So we're going to be taking a look at 3 videos that they've uploaded, which basically goes on to talk about how records reveal the truth of prospective Kona Blue project to reverse engineer UFO tech. Which apparently didn't exist a month ago, but now does. But yeah, let's look at this.
We are learning more about a top secret extraterrestrial program that never actually happened. The Pentagon says the government once had a plan to reverse engineer any recovered UFOs. The plan was proposed to the Department of Homeland Security, known as Kona Blue, but apparently no one heard about it because they say they never were able to collect any, quote, otherworldly spacecraft. Let's bring in News Nation's Joe Khalil, who is live for us in Washington with more. Joe.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This is a program that we've just learned about now from AARO. They just released newly declassified documents from Homeland Security, and it lays out this special access program or top secret program called Kona Blue. The purpose of which, according to these documents, was to acquire, to study, to engineer, and to identify technology from what they called AAVs, or Advanced Aerospace Vehicles, so what we might now fall under the category of UAPs. And it's here for you in black and white. These newly declassified documents are laying out in incredible detail how the program itself was stood up. It lays out a budget, $12 to $15 million. The first year, $25 million. The second year, eventually upwards to $50 million. And it also laid out its purpose, which was national security. Remember, this is Homeland Security and DOD working together on this. The document says the purpose was to, I'm quoting now, access recovered advanced technology and determine its threat capability. Within that, explicitly, is also a detailed effort to try to reverse engineer these recovered technologies and also to get a grasp on whether our adversaries, and in particular, they're named in this report, China and Russia, have access to recovered AAVs as well. Now, at one point in the justification for why Kona Blue would need to remain classified. It says here, and I'm quoting again, recovered AAV technology exists in and is accessible only within an SAP or Special Access Program construct. And it goes on to say retrieval and integration of historical data from high-value personnel with knowledge of recovered AAV technology and present location of recovered material is accessible only with a classified construct. If you take a look at another document here that we found within this, it also, for those who think this may sound sci-fi or crazy, this is the Undersecretary of Science and Technology. So one of the top scientists at Homeland Security at the time, Tara O'Toole, reading and signing off on this program, approving it. Now, all of this is significant because for years, Kona Blue was talked about, rumored about. Just last month, for the first time, the Department of Defense acknowledged that it existed, and now for the first time, we're actually seeing it in black and white. Now, what DoD has said is that they scrapped this program because, yes, they meant to retrieve this kind of material and reverse engineer it, but they say they didn't actually find anything. That was what the Pentagon said last month, so they ended up scrapping the program. We did just in the last 15 minutes get a comment from Homeland Security. They say that this program was never actually approved, but still fascinating to see this laid out in such detail in black and white for the first time there, Nicole.
All right, Joe. Khalil live in Washington. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Now, I find this hilarious because they're like, the whole thing is like, we've got this program. We got it up and running. It's here in black and white. It was funded, it was up and running, it was suddenly scrapped because they found nothing. And then like 2 sentences later, they're like, no, actually, no, we just never funded it. It was never a startup, it never began. But actually, it did start up because 2 sentences earlier, you're talking about how it started up and you funded it. So where do you sit? This makes no friggin' sense. It's ridiculous. And it opens about a billion other questions. All right, the billion other questions that it opens is, what else is there? They said last month that these things didn't exist. Now they do. They're saying that it was never started, and then suddenly it was. And then, what else is there? Obviously, the big thing in the report was they had no extraterrestrial bodies or craft that they reverse engineered. Is that true? It's impossible to now trust what they're saying because well, how can you? How can you trust that that's what's being said? Because the proof's in the pudding. You've just released something that contradicts what you've already said. So it's like, oh my days. And then there was another video from News Nation, adding pressure, which says that the Pentagon acknowledges secret UFO project, the Kona Blue program.
Blue have anything to do with the program David Grush says exists. News Nation's Joe Khalil is here now with more. Joe, there is a tiny credibility question here. The Pentagon has been saying for the past year there was never any such reverse engineering program. Now it says, oh, there was one, but it never really got started.
Yet £12.5 million or $25 million, got pumped into it, with the prospect of 50 million the following year being pumped into it. All right, Pentagon, all right.
Yeah, there were rumors about this program, the codename Kona Blue, for a long time now. And it was only last month that they acknowledged for the first time ever that it existed. Now we are getting an inside look at how this program was propped up. So it's called Kona Blue. It is real. It was a special access program, very highly classified. It was proposed from the Pentagon to the Department of Homeland Security. We now have all of these declassified documents, and in them, it describes the purpose of the program as, and I'm going to quote here, acquiring, studying, and engineering technology that the U.S. got from UAPs or UFOs. In the documents, it refers to them as AAVs, Advanced Aerospace Vehicles. Ultimately, the program was scrapped by the Department of Homeland Security, but not before years of planning went into it from the Pentagon, and it describes in detail how they stood the program up. They set a budget, $12 million to $15 million the first year, going all the way up to $50 million down the road. And the program in these documents now also makes specific reference to locations in Nevada where some material may be housed. It also references recovered UAP material, personnel with knowledge of recovered technology, and also personnel who know of the whereabouts of this. And just last...
Yeah, let's not forget that this never started. You know, it refers to materials and where they could be housed, people that might know about the program or were involved in the program, and craft that could potentially be housed somewhere. But it never got started, remember, and they never found anything. So, you know, these references are just empty.
If, you know, you think this sounds too sci-fi, or that this was maybe one or two rogue employees at the Pentagon, in these documents it also shows that the Undersecretary of Science and Technology signed off on this program and approved it, saying in these documents that it was a necessary step for national security. So all of that is in here now. We did get a response from the Department of Homeland Security today, and they said simply, quote, while this program was considered under a prior administration, it was never fully established by the Department of Homeland Security. DHS has released these classified documents consistent with its commitment to transparency. So, Elizabeth, it looks like we now have some very clear specifics about what was in this, at least, proposal for this plan from the Pentagon.
Wait, you mentioned some budget figures there in the tens of millions of dollars. Was that money ever spent? Was money ever spent on Blue Kona?
I don't believe the money was spent. The money was effectively sort of earmarked within the DoD's budget, or the Pentagon's budget, but the program, to my understanding, was scrapped before that money was spent, because it was allocated specifically for year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 3 being an expectation for what they would need at that point.
And what do we make of the fact that they keep talking about locations in Nevada and material being housed in Nevada? What is that a reference to?
Yeah, that was really interesting. So it was referencing locations where the program was scoping out for if they had recovered these types of material or pieces of recovered vehicle, where they may be housed, where they may be kept. They were bringing on a scientific team to study and do that kind of thing. So they were literally already scoping out locations where that type of work was going to happen. And it's all laid out there in these now declassified documents, right in black and white.
All right. Joe Khalil reporting live from Capitol Hill. Thanks so much.
Like, it makes no sense. Literally, you say one thing and then you backtrack it and then basically pump out another. It's like, yes, we have this program. No, we didn't start it. But we do have potential housing places for materials and, you know, people that might have been involved with this program. But don't forget, it never started. But last month, it didn't exist. What do you believe anymore? Like, there is so much chasing your tail with the government right now. And the Pentagon especially. Like, they are just chasing their tail. It's like years and years and years of lies have come out. And now, all of a sudden, there's so much pressure on it. And people are, like, asking all of these questions. The amount of pressure pounding on top of it. And they're like, shit, we've got to release something. So they release it. And it contradicts about 25 years worth of lies. And then it's like, we need to release this as well. So they release it. It contradicts a further 5 years of lies. They release another thing. And it's like just constantly trying to undo this web of lies that they've forced out for years. So it just goes to show that there is movement, absolutely. But, like, how much movement are we going to get? How much more movement are we going to get? But the man who is really nailing this home is Ross Coulthart, and of course he did a little insert for News Nation as well, and we're going to take a look at that now.
Joining us now is News Nation's special correspondent Ross Coulthart. What's your reaction, Ross, to these declassified, now newly declassified documents in Kona Blue?
Good evening, Elizabeth. Well, look, it does sound sci-fi, but I can tell you there are people inside the Defense Department, former and serving, who do believe that the claims made in the Kona Blue documents were authentic. But that's vigorously disputed, of course, by the ARRO, the Pentagon's UAP investigation team. They did their historical review and published a few weeks ago, and they said, yes, there was this codename Kona Blue program that was proposed, never implemented, but proposed as a special access program, one of the deepest, darkest secrets in the US government. And they claim at ARRO that, of course, they investigated and they found no evidence to support claims of retrieved non-human technology. All I can tell you, Elizabeth, is that we now have a very clear difference of opinion inside the Defence Department and also inside the intelligence community. Because one of the things that's conspicuous, ever since that ARRO historical report was published a few weeks ago, which refuted Kona Blue's documents and said that there was nothing in the whole program, the allegations were based on false premises. What's been conspicuous is that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the intelligence czar that was appointed post 9/11 to centralise and control intelligence in the United States, they haven't backed the Pentagon's claims in the ARRO report.
Have they contradicted them, or are they just not commenting?
They're just not commenting. And it's very...
Silence speaks more than 1,000 words, really, doesn't it? In this kind of situation, they're not commenting because then they can't not incriminate, but they can't further kind of cement or hammer home the idea or contradict themselves. So it's just safer to not say anything. What a mess.
Interesting, because I'm told there is a split between the intelligence community and the Defence Department. The Pentagon's decided to bluff it out and go it alone. There are people who are passionately of the view that there is authentic, recovered, non-human technology in the possession of the United States, and they are determined to get access to it so that its utility can be exploited, weapons can be developed, technologies can be advanced to the benefit of the American people. The problem is there's a group inside the Pentagon, they believe, who are blocking access to this technology. And that's what the decision to not make Kona Blue a special access program was all about. This was an attempt by a group of committed people inside the Pentagon who do believe this technology exists, to try and make sure that they did everything properly, by the book, by the law.
Is it
and
possible,
unfortunately, they were blocked.
Ross, is it possible that David Grush might have conflated? I mean, was it Kona Blue that he was talking about, or was he talking about a completely different program?
I'm sure the Pentagon would love you all to believe that David Grush is a deluded person who has no idea what he's talking about. And that's certainly the line they're pushing at the moment. What I can tell you is that there is an abundance of independent, objective witnesses who back what David Grush says to the hilt.
Now, that's an interesting talking point, because obviously ARRO have recently kind of fired some shots at David Grush, saying that they sent him countless FOIAs, Freedom of Information Acts, to David Grush to try and get his side of things, which he apparently refused, and they're using that to discredit him. Now, whatever you believe on that, it's up to you, of course. Do you think David Grush is secretly trying to hide information, or do you think he's not? Whatever. It's none of my... that's another conversation for another day. But it's interesting that all of this comes out, and the lead man who's kind of blown the lid off of all of this, being David Grush, is the person that they are currently trying to discredit. It's tit for tat, really. It's like children's playground games. It really is. It's petty.
And this is slowly going to come out, whether the Pentagon likes it or not. And unfortunately, we have a situation now where the government is actively being, I believe, misled by people in the Pentagon who have determined to try and cover up and deceive the American public.
Ross Coulthart, how did they come up with Kona Blue? How's that a nickname for a top secret program to reverse engineer? I mean, I always wonder how they do that. Ross, great to have you on the show. As always, we will continue to cover this as more documents are declassified and we read them. Thanks so much.
So there it is. Long story short, Kona Blue now exists, even though it didn't over a month ago, and it's a messy situation, and basically this, like I said before, is just the government chasing its tail in the hopes that they can undo years and years and years of damage and regain respect from the general public, which I think at this point we're too far gone. We're too far gone. And it's now up to people like us over on this channel and other channels, and, you know, like Ross Coulthart and Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna and all of these people that want this disclosure. It's down to us to really put that pressure on, maintain that pressure, and get the answers that we're seeking. I think this is, a massive step in the right direction. I think 2024 could be the year for it. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to jump to get the hell out of that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. And tickle my little bell so you get notified whenever we upload to this channel. And until next time, guys, I hope that you have enjoyed. Cannot wait to see you in the next one. And I'll speak to you later. Peace.